Hello everyone and welcome back to Baron's Den as we continue our run through all of the teams to see what's changing for Season 3 and what's staying the same, what's got better, what's got worse, and we can have a bit of a chat about it. So let's get on with the Wood Elves next. So Wood Elves, traditionally one of the best teams in Blood Bowl. I think the general consensus would be they weren't as potent in Blood Bowl 2020, so they haven't been quite at the top, but you know, in the hands of a good coach and with some good skills on them, they can be, you know, they can still win a tournament. They can still be very potent. But perhaps the nerf to passing in the last edition hurt them a little bit. So let's see where they are now. So the Wood Elf Lineman actually has gone down in cost, as we can see here. It's now only 65k, not 70. It's also passing's improved. So that passing game that the Wood Elves lost, okay, they're not 2+ passing, but a 3+ pass isn't bad for a lineman, particularly if you need to shuttle that ball 3 squares. That's not too bad at all. No devious access, it's worth noting. They've kept their agility and general on primary and strength on secondary. No skills, but a very solid stat line for a 65k player. We all know that the big weakness of the Wood Elves is this one here, the Armour 8+, but there's plenty of other teams with Armour 8+ who don't have some of the qualities that the Wood Elves have. So overall, I think a general improvement to the Wood Elf Lineman. The Wood Elf Thrower has also changed in cost. She was 95k, so she's come down by 10k. That's quite significant. Still AGP on primary and strength on secondary. Same stat line, 7, 3, 2+, 2+, 8+. So 2+ passer with primary passing access means, and with pass as a skill means she is already an established thrower and can just get better with skills. She's gained safe pair of hands as well, which is the skill that when you're knocked down, instead of the ball bouncing out of your square, you can choose which adjacent unoccupied square the ball can go into. And I've found that to be quite useful. You know, it's never a skill I'd pick. I think it was only the Renegade Thrower who used to have it. But I'll be honest, I'd randomise it a couple of times and have to put up with it instead of firing the player. I've maintained it. And on a ball carrier, when someone does get into your cage or gets through your screen and sacks the ball, it's really useful to be able to direct it into the best possible square. Because you know that when you don't have this skill, you think, well, there's 6 decent squares it could jump into, 1 terrible square, and it always goes into that terrible square, like straight into the hands of a waiting Wardancer. Well, not on this team it would be. Or into the waiting hands of a gutter runner who can just catch that on a 3+ or something ridiculous. So yeah, a safe pair of hands, you wouldn't ever pick it, but it's rolled into free for a thrower who's become 10k cheaper. So I think the thrower has gained. I really do. The Wood Elf Catcher. Now, this is... I've forgotten to do the red again. This is where there is a bit of an issue because we've lost 2 catchers. So we've gained a bit of passing on the catchers now. So the Wood Elf, I think, is one of the best passing teams in the game now because with the exception of the... I think they're all 3+, obviously except for the Treeman, or better. So they're not bad at their old passing game now. The catchers also regained sprint, which they used to have. Agility general on primary, passing strength on secondary. It's a great player. I'm not going to miss the 2 catchers as much as I'm going to miss positionals in other teams. And that's because I'd very rarely run 4, I don't think. Because Wood Elves were always so expensive, I would only ever start with like 1 or 0 catchers, and I'd never build my way up to 4. But I know there were players out there that did, so for those players, they are going to miss the catchers. But generally, I'm not too fussed for the Wood Elves about the loss of positionals. I know I've famously gone on record of saying I can cope without 2 gutter runners, but I accept that one is a lot more contentious. I genuinely think losing 2 Wood Elf catchers isn't as big a deal as a lot of the other teams that have lost positionals. But again, it's just my opinion. Then there's the Wood Elf Wardancer. So all that's changed with the Wardancer is it's actually got better at passing, like I said. Generally, the Wood Elves have got better at passing, but it has increased in cost to 130,000 now. So it is now one of the most expensive positionals that aren't a big guy. It's now more expensive than the Werewolf, and it should be really, because that stat line, movement 8, strength 3, edge 2+, passing 3+, armor 8+ isn't so good, but agility in general on primary with block, dodge, leap, starting skills is, you know, an excellent starting player, isn't it? Famous for being probably the best player in all of Blood Bowl. Will it maintain that crown in this edition? I haven't seen any reasons to doubt it. But you are paying for it because it's got a big cost to it, 130,000. You've got to think about the elite skills as well because he comes with block and dodge, and you're not going to be looking at things like guard and mighty blow. The Wardancer isn't going to get hurt as much by the elite tax, and actually it's going to benefit from the stat up, the decreases in SPP needed to get stat ups, and the kind of stat ups you can get. It's easy to get slightly better stat ups, I think, in this edition of the game, and that's going to really help the Wardancer because what the Wardancers love is a stat up because movement 9 Wardancer's amazing, strength 4 Wardancer's amazing, Edge 1 plus Wardancer's amazing. So you can't go wrong really. I think in this one though you can roll pure armor, but even an armor 9 plus Wardancer isn't bad, particularly as it only adds 10k on. So yeah, I think the Wardancers again are benefiting as well from other things that have changed within the game. And then finally the Treeman, who has gained oddly passing on secondary, which for a big guy you think, oh, that's good, until you realise that this Treeman's not going to be throwing anyone. So you might want to put leader, I guess, on one of the toughest players on the team. But it's expensive as a secondary skill, so don't quite know really what to say about having the passing added to the Treeman. But everything else is pretty good and standard. Nothing's changed with the stat line. Cost is the same, still strength and primary. All of the skills are the same. Obviously, the Lauren Forest Treeman comes with Loner, as opposed to the Alton Forest Treeman. So yeah, not much to say there. It's stayed the same. There was a time when no one would take the Treeman in the Wood Elf teams. I always did because I just like taking variety in my teams, even if it's not always the optimum choice. But I think people were warming up to the Treeman now. It is useful to have something on the pitch for Wood Elves that isn't going to leave immediately. And it's actually not that much more expensive than some of the other positionals anyway. So I do like a Treeman on a Wood Elf team. Okay, additional rules. Rerolls are still 50k. They can have an apothecary. They're still Elven Kingdoms, but they also get Woodland League, which actually I do think that's a boon over Elven Union and Dark Elf and potentially High Elf as well, because they only have Elven Kingdoms, I think. So that is really going to benefit them because that gives them access to some extra star players. Now, those star players may not be amazing, but I think Woodland League does include the gnomes, for example. So a cheap gnome player on a Wood Elf team might be quite useful. I'm thinking Rodney Roachbait. For a lower cost player isn't a bad shout, is it? So pros and cons with the Wood Elves. So I've gone back and forth with Wood Elves. So the bad side of it, there's loss of 2 catchers, the Wardancers are a bit more expensive, and there's no devious access at all. So the fouling game is dramatically reduced for them because now you've got, expensive positionals and linemen doing fouls that aren't necessarily going to be. You're not going to have the synergy of having things like dirty player, sneaky git. You can't do the quick foul. You can't do the lone foul. So the fouling game, you can still foul with Wood Elves, obviously, but it's not going to have all those bonus extras. So a few cons there, but basically there's loads of pros to the new Wood Elves. You've got cheaper linemen. Your thrower is cheaper and comes with safe pair of hands. Your catchers have got sprint back, even though you've only got 2 of them. Your Wardancers will benefit from easier stat ups because it's easier to get a stat up now in the game, and I think Wardancers are one of those players who will benefit the most from that. They've got access to the Woodland League, which gives them a wider pool of stars to look at, and the Wardancers catchers and linemen improved as throwers. Not that you'll potentially need that, but it is going to help if the ball's bobbing around in the midfield and you can only pick up and throw with a non-thrower. You've got pretty good stand-ins that are as good as like the human thrower and the orc thrower now. So a Wardancer's now as good at throwing as an orc thrower and a human thrower, which I suppose they always used to be, I suppose, back in the pre-2020 days. But it's just worth noting. And one that I couldn't even fit on is the elite tax thing. It might actually hurt the Wood Elves because they're going to want dodge on a lot of their players that don't have it. But having said that, the positional, particularly the Wardancer, probably won't need many elite skills. You might want to go for a Mighty Blow Wardancer, I guess. That's going to be very expensive, 50k to get that on him. But other than that, he'll be going for those secondary skills and stat ups that don't have the tax with it. So overall, I do think the Wood Elves have slightly benefited. So I've popped them over here, just below the Goblins. I don't think they've perhaps benefited as much as the Goblins, but they have benefited. I did have them here, and it was that last realization about the Woodland League and about the elite tax and things like that that made me think, actually, no, they probably are overall better. All of that seems to, for me, mitigates the loss of 2 catches. Just remember that this is not a tier. This is not, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 by any stretch. These are still the benchmark team. These are going to be good, I think, in the edition. Dwarves might be okay, even though I think they've lost out a bit because they were already very good. So this just is where I think they've how they've transferred over into the new game. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Rockstar update. Bye for now.